What do you think if a beautiful and beloved actress were rumored to have slept with dozens of men? For Hollywood, this is not uncommon, but it seems unbelievable when it happened during its heyday. If doubt lingers in your heart, journey with us to explore 20 controversial actresses entangled in shadowy and ambiguous connections with men. Mabel Normand. Mabel Normand's personal life was filled with controversy, as her relationships with men, many of them prominent figures in Hollywood, were often a topic of gossip. She was known to have numerous affairs with leading men, including actors like Fatty Arbuckle, and her love life often became intertwined with the drama of Hollywood's social scene. This reputation for promiscuity, coupled with her larger-than-life personality, made her both a star and a figure of public fascination. However, it was not just the men in her life that contributed to the speculation about her behavior. It was also the circumstances surrounding her relationships, which often appeared to be scandalous or controversial. Normand's carefree attitude towards romance and sexuality, combined with her quick rise to fame, fueled the rumors about her personal escapades, casting her as a woman who lived on the edge of Hollywood excess. Yet, it was the two infamous scandals in Normand's life that truly defined her legacy and overshadowed her career, casting a shadow that she could never fully escape. The first of these was her involvement in the 1922 murder of director William Desmond Taylor. Taylor, a well-known director, was found shot to death in his Hollywood home, and the investigation into his murder was one of the most sensational and mysterious cases of the time. Normand's name became linked to the case due to her close association with Taylor, as they had a romantic relationship, and Normand had reportedly been one of the last people to see him alive. While she was never charged with any involvement in the murder, the scandal surrounding the case was a major blow to her career. The public fascination with the murder trial, combined with the ongoing rumors about her personal life, meant that Normand was forever tied to the scandal in the public imagination, even though the case was never solved and no criminal charges were ever filed against her. The second major scandal in Normand's life occurred in 1924, when she was involved in the shooting of millionaire Courtland S. Dies. During a social gathering, a gun belonging to Normand was fired, injuring Dies. Though it was later determined that the shooting was accidental, the involvement of Normand's gun and the circumstances surrounding the incident added another layer of scandal to her already tarnished reputation. Once again, she was cleared of any criminal wrongdoing, but the incident fueled further speculation about her behavior and emotional state. The press had a field day with the story, portraying Normand as a wild and unpredictable woman, caught up in a world of excess and chaos, and these events continued to overshadow her career, making it difficult for her to regain the same level of public adoration that she had once enjoyed. Lupe Velez's love life was infamous for its intensity and the string of high-profile men who were rumored to have crossed her path. Among the most notable were Gary Cooper, Johnny Weissmuller, Charlie Chaplin, and Clark Gable. These men, who were all icons of their era, formed the nucleus of a network of turbulent, passionate, and often explosive affairs. Velez's rumored relationship with Gary Cooper stands out as particularly dramatic, marked by intense passion, jealousy, and ultimately violence. Their interactions were described as a tempest of emotions, swinging between adoration and rage, and they were frequently in the tabloids for their fights and reconciliations. The relationship with Cooper is often cited as one of the most volatile of Velez's life. The passion between them was undeniable, but it was also filled with destructive jealousy and mistrust. The most extreme example of this volatility came when Velez allegedly shot at Cooper in a fit of rage. Whether this incident was a moment of actual violence or a hyperbolic tale spun by the gossip-hungry press, it became part of the narrative surrounding Velez's complicated love life. This act, if true, would have been a manifestation of the deeply emotional and possessive nature of her relationships, and it serves as an example of how her personal life often blurred the lines between affection and destruction. Vasquez's fierce sexuality and outspoken personality also contributed to the rumors that swirled around her life. She became known as a woman who was unapologetic in her pursuit of attention and love, fueling speculations about her personal desires and the true nature of her relationships. She was often described as someone whose emotions were deeply intertwined with her physical relationships, and her need for constant affection seemed to be an addiction, one that demanded fulfillment at any cost. This obsession with being loved and desired not only influenced her romantic entanglements, but also her public persona. Her love life, constantly under the scrutiny of the press, seemed to feed her need for attention, even as it led to deeper emotional turmoil. Vasquez's marriage to the Olympic swimmer and actor Johnny Weissmuller, famous for his portrayal of Tarzan, was another major chapter in her tumultuous love story. While their marriage may have seemed like a glamorous pairing on the surface, it too was marked by discord. Much like her other relationships, it was filled with moments of tension and emotional upheaval. Their marriage, however, seemed to spiral into greater instability, and their eventual separation only added fuel to the rumors of Vasquez's erratic romantic behavior. Though Vasquez's desire for love and admiration was clear, it was also evident that her emotional needs were not being fully met in her relationships, which contributed to her emotional strain. The challenges she faced in both her personal and professional life seemed to weigh heavily on her. In 1944, Vasquez's life ended under circumstances that suggested a culmination of various difficulties, including complex personal relationships and emotional hardship. At the time of her death, she had already been through a series of intense emotional and physical challenges, which seemed to have taken a significant toll on her well-being. Marion Davies' affair with Hearst, which lasted for decades, was widely known and often the subject of gossip, overshadowing her professional achievements. The complexities of her love life, particularly her rumored involvement with other prominent men, fed the media frenzy surrounding her reputation, often diminishing her artistic talent in the eyes of the public. Despite her relationship with Hearst, rumors swirled that Davies had a brief affair with Charlie Chaplin, one of the most famous figures in Hollywood at the time. The affair, which allegedly took place while she was still deeply involved with Hearst, was a catalyst for much of the drama that characterized her personal life. According to various reports, this love triangle caused Hearst to fly into jealous rages, exacerbating tensions and fueling gossip about Davies's sexual relationships. It is said that Hearst, who was famously possessive and controlling, could not tolerate the thought of Davies's affections being directed elsewhere, adding an even more scandalous layer to the public's fascination with their tumultuous dynamic. The affair with Chaplin was not the only instance in which Davies's flirtatious nature and romantic escapades made headlines. Although her relationship with Hearst was the most well-known, Davies was rumored to have had numerous liaisons with other powerful men in Hollywood. These rumors further fueled her reputation as a woman who sought attention and affection from the most influential men in the industry, contributing to her image as a seductive and sexually liberated figure. The flirtation, however, wasn't always seen as empowering. Often it seemed to reflect the power imbalances present in her relationships, particularly with Hearst, who was not only her lover but also a powerful media magnate with significant control over her career. Hearst's role in Davies' life was both personal and professional, but the relationship was complicated by the vast age difference between the two. Hearst was over 30 years her senior, and the overwhelming public scrutiny they faced. Hearst, whose influence over American media and politics was immense, used his power to help Davies in her career, but he also controlled much of her life. Despite the apparent loyalty between them and the fact that their relationship lasted until his death, Davies's position as Hearst's mistress was often portrayed by the public in a negative light. Many saw her as a gold digger, a woman who had used her relationship with Hearst to climb the social ladder and secure a life of wealth and privilege. This perception of her as a kept woman undermined her professional accomplishments and overshadowed her talents as an actress. Louise Brooks. Mae West once famously said, "I believe in love, but I don't believe in the institution." In many ways, this sentiment could easily be applied to the life and career of Louise Brooks, one of the most iconic actresses of the silent film era. In an era when actresses were often expected to maintain an image of modesty and restraint, Brooks defied these norms, embracing her sexuality with a refreshing openness. She did not conform to the typical Hollywood good girl image, which sought to portray women as pure, docile, and subservient. Instead, Brooks played into her reputation as a liberated woman, a femme fatale who was unashamed of her desires. Her sexual liberation became an integral part of her identity, both in her roles and in her public persona. While many actresses of her time had to carefully craft their public image to protect their reputations and avoid scandal, Brooks was forthright about her numerous affairs with both men and women. She did not shy away from discussing her experiences with intimacy, nor did she attempt to conform to the ideal of female modesty that was so often demanded by Hollywood's studio system. Brooks's relationships were often the subject of public speculation, but she remained unapologetic about her actions, understanding that her sexuality was her own to explore and express. Her sexual freedom was not only a personal stance, but also a form of rebellion against the norms of her time, a declaration that women could and should be in control of their own bodies and desires. One of the most compelling aspects of Brooks's life was her open acknowledgement of her desires, despite the fact that she often rejected labels for her sexuality. Although she denied being bisexual or lesbian, Brooks did have relationships with women, and her exploration of her sexuality was far from hidden. She frequently pursued romantic and sexual connections with women, engaging in passionate affairs that were both well-known and deeply meaningful to her. In a time when the societal and cultural pressures to adhere to heterosexual norms were immense, Brooks's willingness to embrace and explore her relationships with both men and women marked her as a pioneering figure in the realm of sexual freedom. Her unapologetic nature regarding her desires, regardless of gender, suggests that she was not bound by the conventional labels that society might have placed upon her. Jane Mansfield. Jane Mansfield's love life was filled with turmoil, and she was known for her 3 marriages and numerous high-profile extramarital affairs. Her marriages, all of which ended in divorce, were often overshadowed by her relationships outside the bounds of matrimony. She was married to her first husband, Paul Mansfield, for only a few years before they divorced, and then to filmmaker Mickey Hargitay, with whom she had 3 children. Their marriage, too, eventually fell apart due to her affairs, and she would marry again to lawyer Matt Cimber in the late 1960s, though this, too, would end in divorce. Throughout her marriages, Mansfield's affairs were well known and often the source of much public gossip, with her sex drive and insatiable desire for attention frequently discussed by those close to her. Mansfield's personal relationships were not just an expression of romantic longing. They were closely tied to her pursuit of fame. Her affairs were not merely about love or attraction, they were about maintaining her position in the public eye. Mansfield had a keen understanding of the media's appetite for scandal, and she seemed to use her personal life as a way to keep herself relevant in an ever-changing Hollywood landscape. She sought validation through her relationships, using her sexuality and image as a powerful tool to command attention. In particular, her involvement in the Playboy world was a key part of her strategy to remain in the public's view. Mansfield, known for her glamour and sex appeal, was a frequent fixture in the pages of Playboy, where her connection to the iconic magazine was seen as a natural extension of her sexualized image. Her association with Hugh Hefner and the Playboy brand cemented her place in the world of sex symbols, and her public appearances in the magazine helped her maintain an aura of relevance. Mansfield's relationships with high-profile men also fueled rumors and speculation about her personal life, including one of the most infamous allegations, that she had an affair with John F. Kennedy. While there is no concrete evidence to support this claim, it added to the image of Mansfield as a woman who was able to navigate the corridors of power and privilege, using her beauty and charm to manipulate situations to her benefit. In a time when women in Hollywood were expected to maintain a certain level of decorum and modesty, Mansfield's openness about her sexual relationships and her willingness to embrace the role of a sexual icon marked her as both groundbreaking and controversial. Clara Bow's private life was the subject of relentless gossip, much of it sensationalized by the Hollywood rumor mill. She was rumored to have had numerous affairs with co-stars, directors, and even athletes, including an infamous and likely exaggerated claim about her involvement with multiple members of the USC football team. While such stories cemented her reputation as a wild child, they often overshadowed her talent and work. Bow herself admitted to living a fast-paced lifestyle, but many of these rumors were embellished or entirely fabricated by tabloids hungry for scandal. The scrutiny only added to her sense of alienation in an industry she often referred to as phony. Adding to Bow's troubles was a series of personal scandals that rocked her public image. One of the most damaging incidents came in the form of a lawsuit filed by her former secretary, Daisy DeVoe, who was accused of embezzling from Bow. During the trial, DeVoe retaliated by leaking intimate and often salacious details about Bow's personal life, feeding the tabloid frenzy. The trial left Bow humiliated and emotionally drained, further alienating her from the industry and the public. By the early 1930s, the mounting pressures of fame, compounded by her insecurities and the relentless scrutiny of her personal life, took a devastating toll on Bow's mental health. She suffered a nervous breakdown and made the decision to retire from acting at just 28 years old. Bow sought solace in a quieter life, marrying actor Rex Bell and moving to a ranch in Nevada. There, she focused on raising their two sons and attempted to leave the chaos of Hollywood behind. Despite this retreat, Bow's struggles with mental illness persisted. She was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia, a condition that was poorly understood and stigmatized at the time. Her later years were marked by periods of seclusion and hospitalizations, as she withdrew from the public eye that had once adored her. While she occasionally made headlines, she lived out her remaining years far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, a poignant contrast to her earlier life. Joan Crawford. Though she became a revered figure in Hollywood, Joan Crawford's personal life, including her relationships with men such as Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Clark Gable, and Spencer Tracy, was a turbulent and often tragic reflection of her deep-seated need for control and attention. Crawford's rise to fame was far from typical for a woman in Hollywood. In an era when women were often relegated to supporting roles or stereotypical good girl characters, Crawford built a career based on her beauty, resilience, and the sheer force of her will. She used her looks and allure to climb the Hollywood ladder, consciously shaping her public persona and leveraging her sexual appeal to attract powerful men and influential industry figures. Her relationships with men were not just romantic entanglements, they were strategic moves in a much larger game of career advancement. Crawford, in many ways, understood that her value as a leading lady was tied to her visibility, and she took calculated steps to ensure that she remained in the public eye. The men she associated with, including Hollywood's leading men like Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Clark Gable, and Spencer Tracy, became part of the web of relationships that kept her name in the gossip columns, allowing her to maintain a level of celebrity that few could rival. However, Crawford's relationships were far from uncomplicated. The men in her life were often as volatile and turbulent as her own personality, and many of her affairs and marriages were marked by conflict, manipulation, and instability. One of the most well-known figures in Crawford's romantic life was Douglas Fairbanks Jr., whom she married in 1929. Their relationship was often characterized as passionate and tumultuous, and although they eventually divorced, it was one of the most publicized unions of her early years in Hollywood. After their split, rumors of Crawford's affairs with other high-profile men, including Gable and Tracy, continued to swirl. Her relationships with these men, while not always confirmed, were a key part of her image as a woman who used her charm and allure to secure her place in the spotlight. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe lived a life that was as complex as it was iconic. Her 3 marriages, James Dougherty, Joe DiMaggio, and Arthur Miller, each reflected different facets of her personality and the challenges she faced as a woman striving for love, stability, and identity in the unforgiving world of Hollywood. Monroe's first marriage to James Dougherty was a decision born out of necessity rather than love. At just 16 years old, she married a 21-year-old factory worker as a way to escape an unstable home life and avoid being sent back to an orphanage. Dougherty provided her with a sense of security during a turbulent time, but the marriage was ultimately devoid of passion or shared aspirations. When Dougherty joined the Merchant Marines during World War II, Monroe, then known as Norma Jean Baker, began working in a munitions factory, where she was discovered by a photographer. This chance encounter led to her modeling career and eventual stardom. As Monroe's ambitions grew, her marriage to Dougherty faltered, ending in divorce in 1946. Dougherty later described their relationship as one with 2 different directions, illustrating how Monroe's burgeoning dreams left no room for a traditional domestic life. Her second marriage, to baseball legend Joe DiMaggio, was a union of 2 cultural icons. Married in 1954, their relationship was passionate but fraught with tension. DiMaggio, who valued privacy and traditional values, struggled to reconcile Monroe's public persona with his own desires for a conventional, subdued life. The breaking point came during the filming of The 7-Year Itch, particularly the famous scene where Monroe's white dress billows up over a subway grate. The publicity stunt drew massive crowds and media attention, but enraged DiMaggio, whose jealousy and possessiveness clashed with Monroe's commitment to her career. Monroe later revealed that DiMaggio's controlling nature made her feel stifled, leading to their divorce after just 9 months of marriage. Despite their differences, DiMaggio remained a steadfast presence in Monroe's life after their split. In the years following their divorce, he became a source of support for Monroe, especially during her struggles with addiction and mental health. When Monroe passed away in 1962, it was DiMaggio who took charge of her funeral arrangements, ensuring a private ceremony that honored her memory without the intrusion of Hollywood's glare. For the next 20 years, DiMaggio sent roses to her grave weekly, a poignant symbol of his enduring love for her. Monroe's third and final marriage to playwright Arthur Miller marked a departure from the fiery passion of her relationship with DiMaggio. Married in 1956, Miller represented an intellectual and emotional depth that Monroe deeply craved. She admired his intellect and artistry, and for a time, their union seemed to offer Monroe the validation and understanding she had long sought. However, the marriage was far from idyllic. Monroe's insecurities and emotional fragility often clashed with Miller's reserved and introspective nature. She felt increasingly isolated, particularly as Miller withdrew emotionally during her bouts of depression and addiction. The relationship further deteriorated when Monroe discovered a draft of a play Miller had written, in which he expressed his frustrations and doubts about their marriage. The revelation devastated Monroe, deepening her feelings of inadequacy and abandonment. Their marriage ended in 1961, leaving Monroe heartbroken and disillusioned. Jean Harlow married Byrne, a prominent MGM producer, in July 1932. The union seemed to be a fairy tale, pairing one of Hollywood's brightest stars with a well-respected figure in the film industry. However, their marriage was reportedly fraught with tension and underlying issues. Byrne, nearly 20 years Harlow's senior, was said to be deeply insecure about their relationship, possibly feeling overshadowed by his wife's burgeoning stardom. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled about Byrne's troubled past, including speculation about his health and unresolved personal entanglements. Just 2 months after their wedding, on September 5, 1932, Byrne was found dead in their Beverly Hills home from a gunshot wound to the head. Harlow was not present at the time of his death, having reportedly spent the night at her mother's house. The scene of Byrne's death raised more questions than answers. Next to his body lay a cryptic suicide note which read, "Dearest dear, unfortunately, this is the only way to make good the frightful wrong I have done you and wipe out my abject humiliation. I love you, Paul. You understand that last night was only a comedy." Adding to the mystery was the discovery of Harlow's perfume bottle shattered on the floor near Byrne's body, suggesting an emotionally charged scene. Despite the note, many found the suicide explanation unsatisfying. Byrne's death became a media sensation, with rampant speculation about potential foul play. Some theorized that Byrne's past, including alleged impotence or unresolved relationships, might have driven him to take his own life. Others hinted at the possibility of murder, suggesting involvement from figures in Harlow's life or even Byrne's previous acquaintances. One particularly lurid theory implicated Dorothy Millette, a woman rumored to have been Byrne's common-law wife before he met Harlow. Millette reportedly disappeared on the night of Byrne's death and was later found drowned in the Sacramento River, fueling rumors of her possible involvement in the incident. The connection between Millette's demise and Byrne's death remains speculative, but it added another layer of intrigue to an already sensational story. Ava Gardner's romantic life was the stuff of Hollywood legend, with high-profile marriages to Mickey Rooney, Artie Shaw, and Frank Sinatra. Each union showcased a different side of Gardner's personality and her struggle to find love and stability amid the chaos of fame. Her first marriage to Mickey Rooney in 1942 was a short-lived affair, lasting only a year. Gardner, then just 19, quickly discovered that Rooney's womanizing and party lifestyle were incompatible with her desire for a more genuine connection. Her second marriage to bandleader Artie Shaw was similarly brief and turbulent. Shaw, known for his intellectualism and controlling tendencies, reportedly belittled Gardner, exacerbating her insecurities and driving a wedge between them. It was her third marriage to Frank Sinatra that became the most defining and infamous relationship of her life. Their union in 1951 marked the convergence of two magnetic and volatile personalities, creating a love affair that was both passionate and tumultuous. Sinatra, deeply insecure about Gardner's beauty and independence, often found himself consumed by jealousy, leading to explosive arguments that became fodder for the tabloids. Gardner, in turn, struggled with Sinatra's own infidelities and emotional volatility. Despite these challenges, the connection between them was undeniable, and their relationship continued to haunt both of them long after their divorce in 1957. Sinatra, famously devoted to Gardner even in her later years, provided her with financial support when she faced difficulties, a testament to the enduring bond they shared despite the chaos of their marriage. What set Gardner apart from many of her contemporaries was her disdain for Hollywood's social scene and its constant thirst for publicity. Though she was seen as part of the Hollywood elite, Gardner never felt entirely comfortable in the glittering world of parties and premieres. Instead, she sought solace in Spain, a country that resonated deeply with her love of culture, passion, and authenticity. Gardner purchased a villa in Madrid and immersed herself in Spanish life, becoming captivated by bullfighting and flamenco dancing. She developed friendships with bullfighters, artists, and locals, preferring their company to the often superficial relationships she encountered in Hollywood. Spain offered Gardner a sanctuary, a place where she could escape the pressures of fame and embrace a simpler, more fulfilling existence. Zsa Zsa Gabor. While much of Gabor's public narrative focused on her 9 marriages, the tabloids often overlooked her intelligence and strategic thinking. Gabor was no mere trophy wife. She was highly skilled at protecting her financial interests. Each of her marriages, from hotel magnate Conrad Hilton to actor George Sanders, brought her into contact with wealth and influence, and Gabor ensured that she emerged from these unions with her independence and financial security intact. Her ability to negotiate favorable terms in her divorces became as legendary as her one-liners, demonstrating her practical approach to relationships and life. Beyond her marriages, Gabor maintained a vibrant social life that extended well beyond the Hollywood bubble. Her charm and sophistication made her a favorite among European aristocracy, enabling her to move seamlessly between the worlds of film and high society. Gabor was particularly close to Elizabeth Taylor, a fellow actress and kindred spirit known for her love of diamonds and dramatic romances. Their friendship, forged in the heat of Hollywood's golden age, was a testament to Gabor's ability to form meaningful bonds amid the glitter and gossip. Gabor's connections to European nobility were not merely for show. They reflected her deep affinity for European culture and heritage. Born in Budapest, Hungary, into a well-connected family, Gabor brought a distinctly European elegance to her Hollywood persona. She often traveled to Europe, where she attended royal events, mingled with aristocrats, and strengthened her ties to her roots. Her charm and charisma made her a favorite guest at lavish parties and royal banquets, where she effortlessly held court alongside kings, queens, and high-ranking dignitaries. One of Gabor's most remarkable achievements was her ability to act as a cultural bridge between Hollywood and European nobility. While many actresses of her era focused solely on their careers in the film industry, Gabor embraced a more expansive view of celebrity. She saw her fame as a passport to the world, allowing her to build relationships with influential figures across continents. This global network of friends and admirers not only enhanced her social standing, but also cemented her legacy as a true cosmopolitan icon. Elizabeth Taylor. Known for her striking beauty, Taylor's 8 marriages to 7 men often dominated tabloid headlines. Among Taylor's personal relationships, her romance with Richard Burton stands out as one of Hollywood's most legendary love stories. Their union was characterized by passion, volatility, and a deep intellectual bond. Taylor and Burton married twice, with their relationship often making headlines for its fiery arguments and reconciliations, many fueled by alcohol. Despite the public drama, their connection ran far deeper than tabloid fodder. Both were avid readers with a shared love of literature, history, and philosophy. They frequently visited bookstores together, building a personal library that reflected their shared interests. Burton's love letters to Taylor were filled with poetry, reflections on life, and philosophical musings, offering a glimpse into the profound emotional and intellectual depth of their bond. Furthermore, Elizabeth Taylor was a pioneering advocate for AIDS awareness, a cause she championed at a time when few dared to speak openly about the disease. Taylor's advocacy was deeply personal. Her close friendship with actor Rock Hudson, one of the first major celebrities to die from complications related to AIDS in 1985, profoundly impacted her. His death, coupled with the stigma surrounding the illness, drove Taylor to take action. In an era when AIDS was shrouded in fear and misinformation, she used her platform to challenge misconceptions and combat the prejudice faced by those affected. Taylor co-founded the American Foundation for AIDS Research, AMFAR, in 1985, becoming one of the first prominent Hollywood figures to advocate for the cause. Her commitment didn't stop there. She later established the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation in 1991, which focused on providing direct care and support to those living with HIV/AIDS. Through her relentless efforts, Taylor helped raise millions of dollars for AIDS research and care, proving her dedication to humanitarian causes. Tallulah Bankhead was remarkably open about her sexuality, a rarity in the early 20th century when even whispers of non-heteronormative behavior could spell the end of a career. She cheekily described herself as ambisextrous, refusing to conform to labels and instead reveling in her attraction to both men and women. Among her rumored relationships were actress Patsy Kelly and singer Billie Holiday, both trailblazing women in their own rights. These liaisons, while discreetly conducted to some degree, were never fully hidden, adding to her mystique as a bold, boundary-pushing figure. Bankhead's approach to love and desire reflected her broader philosophy of living authentically, even if it scandalized polite society. Besides, Bankhead grappled with significant personal struggles. She battled addiction throughout much of her life, indulging heavily in alcohol and drugs, particularly cocaine. Her reliance on substances often became fodder for her sharp wit. She famously quipped, "Cocaine isn't addictive, darling. I should know, I've been using it for years." While these comments drew laughter, they masked the toll her lifestyle was taking on her health. As the years wore on, her voice became increasingly raspy, and her once vibrant energy began to wane. Bankhead also harbored a profound fear of aging. In a world that valued youth and beauty, especially for women in the entertainment industry, this fear was not uncommon, but it hit her particularly hard. She often joked about her age and fading looks in a self-deprecating manner, using humor as a shield against her insecurities. Her anxiety about growing older was amplified by the changing tides of Hollywood, where her once dominant star power gradually faded, leaving her grappling with the realities of an industry that moved on without her. Lana Turner. Turner's personal life became the subject of intense public fascination. Over the course of her life, she was married 8 times to 7 men, her relationships characterized by passion, volatility, and heartbreak. From her first marriage at 19 to bandleader Artie Shaw, who reportedly belittled her intelligence and left her feeling inadequate, to her final marriage to nightclub hypnotist Ronald Dante, Turner's romantic entanglements often played out in the public eye. These relationships were frequently marred by infidelity, jealousy, and mismatched expectations, leaving Turner in a constant state of emotional upheaval. While Turner's romances captured headlines, the toll they took on her mental health was far less visible. The intense scrutiny and frequent betrayals in her love life contributed to periods of severe insecurity and depression. Her yearning for stability and love often led her into relationships with controlling or abusive partners, perpetuating a cycle of disappointment and emotional pain. Turner herself acknowledged her pattern of falling for the wrong men, once reflecting, "My goal was to have 1 husband and 7 children, but it turned out to be the other way around." Her most infamous relationship was with Johnny Stompanato, a mob associate whose violent and possessive behavior deeply affected Turner. Their toxic relationship came to a shocking end in 1958 when Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, stabbed Stompanato to death in what was ruled a justifiable act of self-defense during one of his violent outbursts. The scandal rocked Hollywood and further compounded Turner's personal struggles, leaving her to grapple with guilt, trauma, and relentless media scrutiny. Gene Tierney. Behind Gene Tierney's impeccable image on screen was a personal life filled with emotional turmoil, mental health struggles, and a series of relationships. Tierney's first marriage to fashion designer Oleg Cassini was both passionate and tumultuous. The couple married in 1941, and their relationship, much like many of her personal affairs, was filled with intense emotion and instability. Cassini was a man of charisma and ambition, but their marriage was fraught with difficulty, with Cassini's infidelities and Tierney's emotional volatility contributing to the strain. While Tierney's beauty and star status captivated many, she was often searching for deeper emotional connection and validation, something that her marriage to Cassini could not provide. Cassini's infidelities and their constant tensions in the marriage reflected Tierney's deep-seated insecurities and emotional fragility. During and after her marriage to Cassini, Tierney was known to have had several affairs, although they were rarely as publicized as those of her peers. These relationships, much like her marriage, were often marked by instability. Her affairs appeared to be attempts to seek out the love and attention she so desperately craved, but they were often fleeting and unfulfilling, leaving her feeling more isolated. It was clear that, despite her status as one of Hollywood's leading ladies, Tierney struggled to find the lasting love and emotional security she needed. Tierney's personal life was further complicated by her struggle with bipolar disorder, a condition that was not widely understood or discussed at the time. Her bipolar disorder, which led to dramatic mood swings, periods of intense depression, and erratic behavior, added a layer of difficulty to her relationships. Tierney's emotional instability made it challenging for her to maintain stable, healthy relationships, and her behavior became increasingly erratic in her personal life. The public at the time had little understanding of mental health issues, and the stigma surrounding mental illness made it all the more difficult for her to seek the help she needed. For Tierney, her mental health struggles were a constant, shadowing her personal life and contributing to her inability to find the emotional peace she sought. Bipolar disorder is often characterized by intense mood swings, ranging from manic highs to crushing lows, and these mood swings were evident in Tierney's behavior throughout her life. During her manic episodes, she was known to be vivacious, full of energy, and highly creative. But these periods of exuberance were often followed by deep, depressive episodes, which could leave her withdrawn, melancholy, and emotionally distant. Her mood swings often strained her relationships, making it difficult for her partners to cope with the unpredictable emotional landscape she inhabited. Mae West. From 1954 until her death in 1980, West shared her life with Chester Rabinski, later known as Paul Novak. 30 years her junior, Novak remained her devoted partner for over 2 decades. Their relationship was an anomaly in the world of Hollywood glamour, where fleeting romances and dramatic breakups often made headlines. Unlike many of her peers, West chose to keep her personal life largely out of the public eye, creating a sharp divide between the Mae West the world saw and the Mae West known to her closest confidants. West and Novak's relationship began when he worked as a bodybuilder and performer, joining her traveling revue as a chorus boy. At first glance, the age gap and their vastly different public personas might have seemed like barriers to a lasting partnership, but their bond proved surprisingly durable. Novak quickly became more than just a romantic partner. He was a confidant, caretaker, and fiercely loyal companion who dedicated his life to supporting West. Although they never married, a decision likely influenced by West's well-documented aversion to traditional commitments, their relationship embodied a quiet stability that was rare in Hollywood. Novak avoided the limelight, choosing instead to focus on caring for West and helping her manage her career and personal affairs during her later years. Despite the public's perception of West as a voracious lover of men, a myth she skillfully cultivated in her roles and interviews, she was far more reserved about her private relationships. She often spoke openly about her love of men and her enjoyment of flirtation, but this was largely a performance, part of the Mae West mystique. In reality, West was deeply selective about who she allowed into her inner circle, and her relationship with Novak was marked by an intimacy and loyalty that defied her public image as a serial seductress. Novak's steadfast presence offered her a sense of security and companionship that she valued deeply, even if she rarely discussed it publicly. Joan Collins's romantic history is well known, with 5 marriages and a series of high-profile relationships capturing the public's imagination. However, few realize how much heartbreak she endured early in life. At just 17, she became engaged to actor Maxwell Reed, a man who would inflict one of her most profound traumas. Reed drugged and assaulted Collins before their marriage, a harrowing experience she later revealed in her memoirs. Despite this, Collins went through with the marriage, likely influenced by societal expectations of the time. Unsurprisingly, the union did not last long, and Collins moved forward, determined to build a life and career on her own terms. Her second marriage, to actor Warren Beatty, became one of Hollywood's most talked-about relationships. Beatty's charm and talent were matched only by his notorious reputation as a womanizer, a trait that proved to be the undoing of their relationship. Collins eventually left him due to his incessant infidelity, but their passionate, stormy romance left an indelible mark on her. While this relationship garnered headlines, it was far from the only chapter in Collins's complex love life. Her third marriage to businessman Ron Cass brought its own set of challenges. Initially a supportive and loving partnership, the relationship deteriorated as Cass succumbed to drug addiction and financial mismanagement. His actions left Collins in a precarious financial position, forcing her to find new ways to support herself and her family. At a time when many might have crumbled under the weight of such setbacks, Collins reinvented herself as a writer. She penned a series of best-selling novels and memoirs, showcasing her wit and storytelling ability while rebuilding her financial independence. This pivot not only secured her financial future, but also revealed a side of Collins's talent that many had underestimated. Rita Hayworth's marriages alone tell a story of instability and emotional turmoil. She was married 5 times, and her relationships were marked by significant drama, often involving intense emotional highs and devastating lows. These marriages, each distinct from the other, reflect the actress's desperate need for love and attention, as well as her struggles to find true emotional intimacy. Hayworth herself was candid about the challenges she faced in her relationships, admitting that she often felt like a pawn in the lives of the men she loved. Despite her physical allure and fame as a sultry movie star, she was plagued by feelings of inadequacy and vulnerability. She once shared that she frequently felt used by the men in her life, as though they saw her only as the sex symbol she portrayed on screen, rather than as a person with emotional needs and desires. Her first marriage to actor and producer Edward C. Judson in 1937 was a tumultuous one. Judson, much older than Hayworth, was described as controlling and manipulative, and it was a relationship that stifled her career and personal growth. It was during this time that Hayworth's own sense of identity was overshadowed by the demands placed on her, and her ability to form meaningful emotional connections with others was hindered. Her marriage to Judson ended in divorce in 1942, but it would not be her last tumultuous relationship. One of Hayworth's most famous and chaotic marriages was to Prince Ali Khan, the son of the Aga Khan, in 1949. This union, which lasted for several years, was marked by constant public scrutiny, as Hayworth was thrust into a life of European royalty and high society drama. The marriage was marred by infidelities, both on Khan's part and later Hayworth's. The couple had 1 child together, but the strain of their relationship, combined with Hayworth's internal struggles, led to their separation. The end of this marriage, coupled with the pressure of being in the public eye, deepened Hayworth's sense of emotional emptiness and contributed to the growing sense that she was not being seen for who she truly was. Instead, her identity was constantly defined by her physicality and her status as a sex symbol, which further exacerbated her struggle with intimacy. Her marriage to actor Glenn Ford, which began in 1943, was another significant chapter in her tumultuous love life. Their relationship was often marked by emotional distance, despite the intense passion they shared at the beginning. Ford, who was one of Hayworth's most famous lovers, was reportedly one of the few men she truly loved. Yet their marriage was fraught with issues of infidelity and emotional alienation. Hayworth later confessed that she struggled with feelings of rejection and loneliness during this time. Her internal conflict between her on-screen persona as a seductive, powerful woman and her personal need for true emotional connection left her feeling trapped. Throughout her life, Hayworth's ability to form emotionally fulfilling relationships was complicated by her constant battle with alcoholism. Her drinking escalated over time and became one of the most significant contributors to her personal struggles. Hayworth's alcoholism often mirrored the destructive patterns in her love life, leading to erratic behavior and periods of intense depression. Alcohol was a means of coping with the emotional distress she felt from her relationships and the overwhelming pressure of maintaining her image. The media and public were often more interested in her persona as a glamorous star than in the woman behind the screen, leaving Hayworth feeling even more isolated. In her later years, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a condition that further stripped away her identity and added to the layers of pain and frustration that she had long faced. Hayworth's death in 1987 marked the end of a life that had been defined by both immense beauty and personal suffering, a life in which the pursuit of love and intimacy never fully met her needs, leaving behind a legacy that was, in many ways, bittersweet. Lamar lived a life that seemed to defy conventional limits, operating under a personal philosophy that sleep was a waste of time. With an insatiable hunger for excitement and adventure, she spent her nights immersed in the fast-paced, glamorous world of Hollywood's party scene, surrounded by a string of lovers, admirers, and an ever-present thirst for passion. Lamar's name has become synonymous with the hedonistic and tumultuous nature of Hollywood's golden age. But her story is also one of tragedy, driven by self-destructive tendencies that ultimately led to her untimely death at the young age of 29. Lamar's marriages are a key part of her larger-than-life persona, with 5 unions in total, some of which remain shrouded in secrecy. Several of these marriages are disputed or surrounded by mystery, with rumors suggesting that Lamar deliberately kept some of her relationships hidden from the public eye. The details of her marriages, particularly the men she chose, hint at a woman deeply drawn to passion and excitement, regardless of the societal conventions of the time. While many would have considered her 5 marriages a testament to instability, for Lamar, they may have simply been a reflection of her need for intense emotional connection, constantly seeking fulfillment in new romantic entanglements. However, it's important to note that Lamar's relationships were not solely about romance. They were also tied to her sexual desires and her search for thrills. Her apparent addiction to excitement and constant pursuit of new love affairs suggests a deeper need for satisfaction that went beyond just her career ambitions. Although the term sex addiction was not commonly used in Lamar's era, her behavior in her personal life, marked by a string of passionate liaisons and affairs with numerous men, could easily be interpreted as a form of compulsive behavior driven by more than just emotional or physical attraction. This insatiable desire for romantic and sexual involvement, which was so often intertwined with her marriages and relationships, perhaps was a way for Lamar to deal with inner turmoil or the emotional voids that came with the pressures of her career and the public's insatiable expectations. Her career, though remarkable, was undoubtedly a product of the era's unique intersection of stardom and excess. Lamar's striking beauty, combined with her bold, unapologetic persona, secured her a place in Hollywood's limelight. However, the very lifestyle that made her a Hollywood fixture, the late nights, the social engagements, and the overwhelming temptation of a world that rewarded indulgence, seems to have contributed to her downfall. In an age where actresses were often expected to live out the fantasies of their audiences, Lamar may have felt pressure not only to maintain her image but also to push the boundaries of what was expected of her. This constant craving for new experiences and intense emotions left little room for stability or peace. It is widely believed that her extreme lifestyle was a factor in her premature death from tuberculosis and nephritis, both of which were exacerbated by her heavy drinking and drug use. Lamar's lifestyle of indulgence, marked by late nights, party-going, and frequent reliance on substances, may have accelerated the progression of these diseases. Though tuberculosis was a common and deadly affliction during her time, her weakened physical state, compounded by years of self-destructive behavior, likely played a pivotal role in her decline. The combination of exhaustion, illness, and the toxic environment she surrounded herself with may have left her with little hope of recovery. What do you think about the complicated personal lives of these stars? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.